Hello, listeners, and welcome to this third and final part of the mini-series Odyssey Study Group Revisited. To find out more about Esther Friedman and her work, you can follow the links in the episode description. But for now, here is Esther. Since you have left the Odyssey Study Group school, what the other names that were used, down in California ways,
Mhm.
have you heard any news, any whispers of the goings and comings of OSG, or have you just kind of left it there? You're not really in touch with people still involved,
Yeah.
so you don't really know.
I don't really know. I have heard whisperings. For example, I have heard whisperings that Robert, who was, head honcho in Boston, got kicked out, and I do think that's true. Um, Obviously, well, or not. I mean, Sharon Gans died. Um, I'm pretty sure that New York classes are continuing. Well, I know that for sure that they are with a new set of leaders. These leaders have been included in Sharon's will, which is very interesting. Um,
She's
um,
given back some of the money that was given to her.
yes, with the expressed desire that business should continue. So there's their burden in life, I guess. I don't have no idea what's going on in Boston over the years, and I would say maybe as recently as I don't know, maybe last year, people will contact me through the blog and say, that they'd been approached. So I think they're still out there trying to continue this, but it's a little hard to think that it's very successful. Truth is, I don't really know.
That's incredible, isn't that? That is so incredible that people are being approached. It's the same thing I just said about Darn Yoga. People are being approached and they're able to go and research and they're finding your blog and your warnings and your
Mhm.
preventative measures are working. That is incredible, Esther.
That makes me happy.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Thwarting the efforts, and I'm sure that it's angering and frustrating for them as well. So that's just kind of like a nice little cherry on top of all the other work that's going into this.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, and I mean it's funny because my blog is, it's not getting tons of traffic, but I just kind of leave it up there as a resource, and every once in a while, I get an email from someone who was like, "Thanks for putting this blog up because, these people approached me at I don't know, Pete's Coffee, and then they courted me for months and months and months. It's the same process. That's the thing. They haven't changed the make new friends recruitment process that much.
That makes sense regarding the size of the group the size that we predict it to be, because of course there's no way of really knowing. But going by the group sizes that you were a part of, that Spencer was a part of, with organizations like the Jehovah's Witnesses, we know there are hundreds of thousands. So if you were to have a blog where you were writing about your experiences in the Jehovah's Witnesses and why you shouldn't join and why some might consider it a cult, even though interestingly on jw.org there's a section titled Why We Are Not a Cult. Um
That's funny.
you
Anyway,
you would probably get more traffic on that website because the proselytizing operation is much bigger and it's global. So with something like school,
mhm.
if there are not as many people to proselytize or propagate with Gurdjieff's work or whoever it is that's been, blacked out, as you talk about in your book, if the operation is smaller, then less people will be approached and less people will be looking on
Yeah,
the internet for, who the heck just spoke to me then. So that makes a lot of sense. I think that's probably perfect. It's probably just right. In terms of your work around cult education, aside from your memoir, I did see your name on the International Cultic Studies Association conference for this year. So you plan to bring a panel to the conference yourself this year?
It is a panel with the hashtag I got out um, campaign, online campaign, right? So I am a collaborator. That's the word I wanted. I am a collaborator. I'm one of many people who, all former members, as far as I know. There may be a few that are involved that aren't directly former members, but the whole point of this hashtag I got out is tell your story so that other people know, so that you can recover, to provide education about this, because we really need to be telling people this can happen. It can happen to you if you're just having a bad day. So that's going to be a panel discussion there.
And that will have already taken place by the time this episode is released.
Mhm.
And it's quite typical for ICSA to have ways of people watching panels back online after they've taken place. So if there is any information available on those panels, I'll put that in the episode description.
Yeah.
Are you involved in any legal action that is happening against school? Because I've read in some newspaper articles that there is legal action, although the people involved in that legal action can't comment on it because it's ongoing.
Yes, I am not, and I don't really plan to. I don't really want to get involved in any legal action. And I think it's a little harder with Boston to do that. My experience is too much like too much can be too much of like, well, you made a choice to do this, and nothing terrible happened, because it's insidious, so you can't really point to anything specific. you know I unfortunately, like, it's hard to sue or charge someone with ongoing coercive control. It's not illegal to systematically lie to get somebody to join your esoteric school. I suppose, though, it could be fraud, right? I haven't thought about it, but you know I, it doesn't really kind of fit what I want to do. I'm really happy with my work right now, which is kind of half my clients are former members and half aren't. But I love that work, and I don't really want to put my focus anywhere else. I know a little bit about the legal stuff. It's all coming out of New York, as far as I know. And again, I think maybe because it's a little more blatant there. Um, Um, when when I was served legal papers, it came from New York, from a woman I'd never met before, who, made claims about what I knew. Somehow she magically knew that I was withholding information from her, although I'd never met her in my life, some bullshit like that. So I think most of the legal stuff is in New York. And I'm really not interested. I'm not interested in suing school. I am interested in pursuing remedies. I'm not a lawyer, but I would love to see law schools studying this phenomenon and trying to address it. You know, like, let's have legal labs at Harvard Law School and NYU and throughout the country. We should have labs studying this misuse and abuse of our court system, to silence people in the land of free speech, right? So,
Well, hopefully this lawsuit will go in the direction of the underdogs instead of
yeah,
those exploiting the system. I really hope so. I really do hope so. I know that people suing for damages have been damaged and should be what's the word you use for that in the legal term? Compensated.
Yeah. Yeah.
compensated for those damages.
I'm sorry, one of those suits really sounds a lot like the format of it sounds a lot like what I forget her name, Moira something, the woman who the prosecutor, the Nixium case, you know,
Penza,
Penza, something like that, that because it focuses on
human
uh,
trafficking.
trafficking. Yeah.
Yeah, I spoke to an international lawyer, Carol Murchison, the other day, and she said that because coercion is not illegal, as you just said, it's not illegal to perpetually lie to somebody until they agree to join your, secret group.
Right.
Human trafficking is illegal and it is a staple part of some of the most insidious but successful coercive groups. So that's what a lot of lawyers are going after now. So I can see that. And even reading Spencer's memoir,
Mhm.
Manhattan Cult Story, there are clear-cut examples of labor exploitation and labor trafficking in his book. And that's without all of the things that happened around children being placed with different families outside of the appropriate legal channels that adoption should take place in.
Yeah.
So, anybody interested in learning more about Spencer's story, you can find Spencer Schneider's book, Manhattan Cult Story, all over wherever you get your books. And Esther Friedman's book,
Mhm.
The Gentle Souls Revolution, is actually now live on the Amazon store. You can purchase it as of February 2023, self-published, incredible book. Really goes into how an individual can be approached in a grocery store one year and 5 years later be wholly dependent on the group itself, and it's an education. It's wonderful. I really recommend people go pick up a copy. Has your husband read the book, Esther?
It's very funny. He's stuck on chapter 6, and I'll tell you why. Chapter 6 is the Christmas parties. And that
Yes.
was the worst part of it. My experience and his experience was Christmas season. That is when the group really intentionally comes between couples and family members and marriages. And so he's read everything up to that, and he's like, "You should be really proud of this. This is really great." And I can't read this, so he's stuck right now. And it's too bad because he does get a lot of praise in the book for for his approach and support and things like that. I hopefully he can get through that part of it. But that to me is one is interesting because I know it's not that he's not reading it. He wants to read it, but it speaks to the damage, the ripple effect of damage perpetuated by school and the Jehovah's Witnesses and Scientology and Nixium and all of them. They all damage and shred our society. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
You're at a particularly difficult, vulnerable part of your experience within school at that point during the Christmas chapter as well. The demand for more of your time, the basically the sleep deprivation, and I don't know where I am or what's going on or what I'm supposed to be doing or where I'm supposed to be going, and all of that stuff is kind of reaching a sort of a climax at that point.
Hmm.
I imagine it's hard for your husband to remember how you were during those times in yourself, and how it must have felt for him observing your behavior and the difficulties that you were going through and not being able to really kind of like pull everything apart because the cognitive dissonance is kind of just
Yeah.
you know banging heads at this point. So it must be tough for him not only to recall how he felt during those times but how he saw you struggling as well.
Yeah. I mean, as you can imagine, holiday seasons were incredibly lonely for him, and we were fighting. Imagine that. We were fighting a lot because I was like, "Oh, but I have to go do this thing, this thing that you're not supposed to know about, right?" And he did at one point, actually, truth be told, at at one point say this is a cult that you're in. So he wasn't completely able to, I mean, he's it's really hard to kind of keep it under, under the wire for that long. But yeah, I think, look, he was watching me for 5 years fall apart, become an empty shell, not the woman that he became engaged to, in 2007. Um,
So tough. That must have been so tough for both of you.
yeah, and I was really certifiable, Casey. I mean, I laugh about it. It's probably not funny, but if I had gone to an ER, I think they would have been like, we need to put you on a psych unit because I really wasn't functioning. I couldn't. It's really so hard to describe that I couldn't think. I couldn't put a sentence together, and I was like, somehow, I don't know how I was functioning in the world. I somehow, like, like an automaton managed to kind of do my job. I mean, I got fired from all my jobs, so I wasn't doing that well, but, um, you
This is
know,
another thread that is so well woven throughout your writing as well. Just shows that descent into a place where you aren't able to function anymore
yeah,
as a result of the tactics used by the group. And it really is just such a wonderful read. I had the opportunity to read a variation, I imagine at this point, of the book a few months back.
yeah.
So I haven't got round to reading the newest version, but I am lucky enough to have a copy, so I do look forward to reading it. And I just recommend everybody go and grab a copy. I'll put the links to the book in the episode description. And I just wanted to ask you, Esther, when you mentioned that you were working with former members as part of your therapy work, is this former members of school or former members of various different cults?
Various cults. I don't know that I would work with former members of school because it's too close. I would probably refer them to someone else. But I have a lot of actually witnesses that, and most of them are like second generation, as in their parents were in it. You know, um, yeah, most of my clients come from other cults in terms of that, like half the client load that is, former members.
Do you think you would ever position yourself as uh solely working with cult survivors and being sort of trauma informed specifically for those that have had these experiences? Because I don't know that there are many therapists out there that specialize in that specifically.
Yeah, I think, the interesting thing is that it's becoming more of my clientele are former members than less, which, I didn't really expect. But I think, since we're living in the age of like really blatant gaslighting and people are really starting to understand what narcissism is, that I would, if that was my full practice, I wouldn't complain. I'll put it that way. I just didn't think in the beginning that I'd be able to have a full practice with former members, but yeah, actually I could, because the demand is pretty great right now, and it's really unfortunate that we don't have more therapists who are specializing in that. Although that number is also growing, so
Feel like there is a reckoning happening slowly. I don't know if it's just the echo chamber that I'm in, but things feel like they're slowly shifting in a very empowering
yeah.
direction, and I hope that that continues. And I think our conversation today will be really helpful for individuals who are looking to empower themselves through publishing their own stories, which can be done now, which I think is wonderful. If anybody would like more information on how that's possible, I'm sure that if you email me I can send information along to Esther. And I know that, Esther, you've worked with Jarrett a lot on the Writing to Reckon workshops as well. So there are writing workshops for cult survivors who would like help in putting together their story.
Yep. Yeah. So Jarrett, you know what? I don't. I suppose you can find her website, but she also a former member, someone who's become a friend. But she's put together a writing program, recovery through writing program. And I believe that she does a lot on Zoom, so you don't have to. She's in Vermont, but you don't have to live there. So and actually, Jarrett and I are going to do a little book tour this summer on the way after the ICSA conference. We're driving back
Oh,
to the New
that's
England area.
awesome.
So,
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, Jarrett. This is Jarrett Bouillon for anybody who would like more information. I've done an episode with Jarrett as well, who is co-founder of hashtag I Got Out. And so all of Esther's work is kind of coming full circle with some of the key players in the cult education field, which is awesome. And again, Jarrett's just one of the warmest, kindest, most loveliest people I've ever met. So I imagine that your personality and hers together is like um quite a fun dynamic. Oh yeah, that sounds great.
we've had a
I
lot of great.
mean, I want to go out for a beer with Spencer. I told him one day I'm going to buy him a Heineken and we're going to sit down and have a pint. So hopefully that's the case, because I imagine Spencer's a lot of fun as well in person.
Yes, we had fun meeting him. We had lunch with him, and actually, at one point I remember Spencer and I were like, "Let's go to Liverpool, meet Casey." So,
Oh
which was
gosh.
so much fun. I need to get a passport, but
That would be like a dream come true for me. I would love that. I'll take you on the best tour of the city. I will be your personal tour guide and I will take you to all of the best spots and landmarks and buy you both some beer and it will be great. I would love that.
do it.
So I've spoken to Esther at length before. We did a two-part episode a while back. That's episode 161. So if anybody would like to hear an interview with Esther, where I ask her about her experiences in depth and detail, and we really go through the Gentle Souls Revolution and and pick the memoir apart and discuss all of those things, you can do that in 161. And then I did have the opportunity to speak with Esther and Spencer together, where they compared and contrasted their writing and their experiences of the New York branch and the Boston branch of the Odyssey study group, which is a really interesting conversation, and treated us to some readings from both of their books as well. So that's episode 182. I'll put the links in the episode description. And if anybody would like to get the most detail on school and on Esther's experiences, you can go and pick up a copy of The Gentle Souls Revolution, just to catch up today with Esther and an opportunity to promote her writing and her work. And it's really important that we share that around and get that out there. So, unless you've got anything else to add for us today, Esther, I've got to the end of my questions.
Gosh, no, I think I'm good. I do look forward one day to meeting you in person. That'll be fun. Let's make that happen, okay? Um,
I really hope so. I hope that I can make it to an ICSA conference one year. I know that they have held it in the UK
yeah.
from time to time, but this year's lineup, I looked at the schedule and I was like, I've spoken to almost every single person, and I'm so excited. And if only I could be there to be like, oh my goodness, look at all these people that I've had the opportunity to speak with. So I look forward to the panels that take place during that weekend and the opportunity to meet as many of the people I've spoken with as possible, yourself and Spencer included.
Well, it's always wonderful to speak with you and be on your podcast. And thank you for doing this podcast because it's important. As I think, I don't know what your listenership is like now, but I imagine it's pretty vast. And you do,
It grows from week to week.
yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you
Okay.
so much, Esther, for your time, for your writing, for coming and spending more time with me today, answering our questions, and self publishing your work as well. I imagine that is a very daunting thing. There's validation from friends who had a cheeky little look at the manuscript and the book whilst it was coming together, but it's scary putting yourself out there in the world. A spoken interview is one thing, a written memoir of your own experiences is something else entirely, and not by a ghostwriter as well, like many of the big names in the world may get theirs out there. So I think that that is truly inspirational, and hopefully our conversation today may encourage some other people to put their stories
I hope so.
in the written form, spoken form, caricature,
Yeah.
comic strips,
Creative.
whatever it looks like. Hopefully, our conversation can encourage some of those people today. Thank you so much, Queen Esther, for your time. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Casey. I hope you do too.
Thank you, Esther. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
That is the end of this mini series on the Odyssey Study Group Revisited. To find out more about Esther and her work, you can follow the links in the episode description. And to get in touch with me, you can find me at cultvaultpodcast@gmail.com or follow me on Twitter and Instagram at cultvaultpod. I'm your speaker, Casey, host of the Cult Vault podcast.